His feats are superhuman.
Half man, half amazing.
He's a one-man traveling circus, flying through the air with the greatest of ease.
He jumped over his head.
Twisting time and space in ways even his peers can't always believe.
People just don't know what the world did this boy just do.
Despite his youth, he has faced a lifetime of adversity.
I mean, he really stunk.
You say I can't handle the big games. And at some point in time, you're gonna swallow your words.
Off the court, his world was crashing down around him. He was betrayed by a trusted friend.
I'm angry now because you took this child's money.
And then deserted by another.
He was disappointed because he saw a bright future for the both of us. I didn't see it that way.
While Vince excelled on the world stage, his brother languished in the county jail.
You never want to see anyone have to be arrested.
4 walls and a door. If you don't get to know yourself better in that situation, you'll never know.
He has invited criticism.
I made it clear to both sides. I said, I'm gonna go get my degree. I said, but I'm going to go play in that game.
And he has demanded accountability.
I was sitting there like shaking. I said, Coach, I'm gonna get open. I'm gonna get us a shot. I'm gonna win the game.
Carter trying to get free.
This is Vince Carter, Beyond the Glory.
Absolutely outstanding.
I concluded that he bet on baseball.
Do you have anything to say to your fans?
On February 12, 2000, a brash new artist emerged on the sporting landscape.
I tried to make it an art form for me as much as I could.
Using a basketball as his brush, the artist attacked his canvas with bold strokes and unparalleled imagination.
That day, Vince Carter showed the world how high he can jump and how creative he can be.
Vince Carter was an instant icon. Basketball players around the world wanted to be like Vince, but it was his younger brother's inability to be like him that sent him down a dangerous path.
They expected me to jump like Vince, shoot like Vince, dribble like Vince. I mean, literally, I was the shadow of Vince.
That was a tough situation for him. It's now Vince's brother instead of just being himself.
Chris was confused, and we tried everything that we knew to try and make him feel like that there are no favorites.
I thought they had a pretty close relationship until the later teenage years. Then I could see a little distance coming between the two of them.
The Carter brothers were born and raised in Daytona Beach, Florida. Vince was born on January 26, 1977, and was introduced to basketball as soon as he opened his eyes.
The day was brought home from the hospital. My brother and I were standing on each side of the crib. We had a little rubber basketball, and we were throwing it back and forth.
He's had a basketball in his hands before he could sit up and been dribbling since he was 2.
When Vince was 7, his parents divorced. Vince and his younger brother, Chris, remained with their mother.
It was an ugly thing for me, just being a young kid and experiencing that. I just knew that, there was a reason for it. It was just a tough time.
Michelle became involved with a fellow school teacher, Harry Robinson, and 3 years later, they were married.
He used to take me to football practice, he used to take me to basketball practice, pick me up. It was pretty neat.
The rebuilt Carter-Robinson family moved into Tomoka Oaks, an upper-middle-class neighborhood just outside of Daytona. Vince and Chris became the athletic stars of the neighborhood.
We used to play every day. Have to come back in, finish homework, then play all night long.
I was always on the diamond playing at the recreation centers. Tried to skateboard. I tried to do all that stuff just because I just enjoyed to try new things and I just enjoyed playing.
By junior high, Vince had developed into a high-flying basketball star with a penchant for the spectacular.
He was taller than all the kids out there. He was shooting on top of everybody. He was handling the rock and steal the ball in transition.
Vince graduated to Mainland High School, where he took over a second team, the school's marching band. His stepfather was Mainland's band director and instilled in him a love of music.
It wasn't the typical thing to do as far as an athlete is concerned, but I was around it so much to where I learned to gain respect for people who play music.
By his junior year at Mainland, Vince's basketball skills had made him a statewide attraction. Students and fans swarmed the antiquated gymnasium, forcing the school to broadcast the games on closed-circuit television and seat the overflow crowd in the cafeteria.
Everybody loved him. He'd throw his hands up, everybody jump up, they start chanting, and when coach take him out, people would leave the gym. Even the band members sometimes would put the instruments down and start walking out the gym. The show's over with.
Mainland's 1994 season ended with a loss in the semifinals of the Florida State Tournament.
I wasn't happy. You get to the big stage, you want to win it. I addressed that, I made it clear to the coach, and I made it clear to the team. We're going to win this championship this year.
Mainland's biggest obstacle was the #1 team in the state, Miami's Northwestern High, and their star center, Tim James. But in a single bound, Vince engraved his name in Florida basketball lore.
Vince is calling for the ball, and he's raging.
Vince took off from the free throw line.
Vince just charges this guy, Tim James, and Vince went through him.
He dunked all over this player. I mean, it was so embarrassing.
And I'd never seen him react that demonstratively as he had at that point. And I think, okay, Vince Carter has arrived.
The human highlight film. Carter says, get out of here. Everyone's on their feet in Tallahassee.
Mainland rode the momentum of Vince's dunk and coasted to the state title, the school's first.
We told him we were going to do it, and we did it. It's like a big party in there.
The Carter family celebrated Mainland's victory, but tension was growing in the household. Vince's younger brother, Chris, now a freshman at Mainland, was feeling pressure to replicate his brother's exploits.
Chris was looking for his own identity, and he wanted to be his own person, getting away from Vince's brother, which I understood. He just chose to go about it the wrong way sometimes.
I tried as hard as I could, but like I wasn't doing it for me, and that's where I messed up at.
In the fall, Vince would go off to college, but his shadow would remain, and Chris would be enveloped by the darkness.
I used to get so high and come back to school, attempt to work. Teacher just look at me, just shake her head, and I'd be like, what? I ain't do nothing, what?
When he's locked up or whatever, then he realized, hey man, this is not the thing to do. I'd rather treat it as he's in another state or something.
In 1995, Vince Carter led Mainland High School to its first Florida State title.
Just a tremendous performance by a great high school athlete. Mr. Basketball in the state of Florida.
Vince's spectacular skills had attracted the attention of college coaches nationwide. The scholarship offers piled high, including an unusually quick one from the University of North Carolina.
We'd heard about Vince Carter from several sources. So I went down to watch him play. Vince was one of those prospects that when you saw him the first time, he jumped out at you.
Coach Guthridge watched Vince go up and down a few times, and after a few minutes, he just looked over at me and said, Coach, I'd like to offer Vince Carter a scholarship to the University of North Carolina.
It's one of the few times that I've ever offered a scholarship. Coach Smith was the head coach at that time, and he's really the only one that offered a scholarship.
Generally, I have to see them, and Bill's a very good judge of talent, and Vince was a great prospect. And the jumping steps out at everybody.
I decided to make my academic and athletic to North Carolina.
Vince accepted North Carolina's offer, but his mother, Michelle, did some research and learned that a number of North Carolina's basketball stars had left school before graduating. As an educator, Michelle was adamant that Vince earn his college degree.
I had to sign this contract saying, that I promised to go back to school.
I said, before I die, you promise me that you're going to get this degree.
I wasn't even thinking about leaving early because I'm going to college.
Michelle had graver concerns for her younger son, Chris, who had started to miss school regularly and was spending time with a dangerous crowd.
You punish, you take away certain things, you ground, but that can't last forever.
I was trying to grow up too fast. I wasn't ready to listen yet.
If a person is really determined not to do the right thing, there's nothing anybody can do, short of God, to stop them.
What was I thinking? What was I going through? Why? I started feeding off that shadow thing.
In Chapel Hill, Vince was largely unaware of his brother's tribulations, focused instead on his own struggle to showcase his remarkable skills in the structured North Carolina basketball program.
It was tough, they didn't let me really be who I was at that time as far as a slasher and just hit the lanes. I'm going for it.
Obviously, in high school, it was best that he take the ball and go on his own. That was a problem for Vince as a freshman, and he didn't play as much as he would like.
He had an expectation of the way things would go, and that expectation didn't turn into reality at that point.
Vince spent the summer in the gym and returned for his sophomore season anxious to improve his contribution.
As a freshman, he wasn't a great outside shooter, but then my guy, she worked on it all summer. From then on, he's getting better all the time.
The Tar Heels carried a 16-game winning streak into the 1997 Final Four, but a lackluster second half against Arizona ended their season 2 steps short of the finish line.
North Carolina showing some signs of fatigue. Big concern right now. Dean Smith has to be getting frustrated, Jim.
Finally get to the Final Four and not play our best basketball. It was definitely heartbreaking for us. They were just beating us down. We weren't playing our best. We got away from what got us there and what was giving us success in the first half. And they almost had to pick me up and drag me off the court because I couldn't believe we lost.
Vince's disappointment carried into his junior year when Dean Smith suddenly retired. Assistant coach Bill Guthridge took over for Smith and guided Carolina back to the Final Four, where they were upset by Utah.
And you better believe it, Utah is in the national championship game.
Antoine Jamison, the National Player of the Year, immediately declared himself eligible for the NBA draft. Vince considered following him, but had to convince Michelle that he would make good on his promise to graduate.
I said, Mom, you know what? You can rip that contract up because that's something I want to do. Finish school and make sure I come back every summer.
I said, just understand the most important thing in all of this is your education. And basketball could be short-lived.
Making myself eligible for the NBA draft after months and months of frustrating nights and days of thinking about it and wondering, should I or shouldn't I? And it's a chance of a lifetime.
The Carters next had to decide on an agent. After a series of interviews, they settled on Tank Black, who was quickly stockpiling Florida athletes.
Tank Black was a very sincere person, and he said all the right things.
He didn't appear to be the old, cold, typical agent like, I would just get the deals for you, whatever, and that's it.
As far as everything, we trusted him with our money. We trusted him if he was in town for something, he can just come on in.
We did fun things together. That's how comfortable and how trusting we became with Tank Black.
I think Carter's the best athlete in the draft. This guy's got an unbelievable upside.
In the 1998 NBA draft, the Golden State Warriors select Vince Carter from the University of North Carolina.
Vince was selected 5th, but was quickly traded to Toronto for his teammate and close friend, Antoine Jamison.
I got introduced to the real life of NBA basketball in one night.
Get drafted on the same day and to get swapped for one another, that just shows you we're always going to be linked together.
To Vince, the Raptors felt like family. His cousin, Tracy McGrady, was the team's star in waiting.
They was asking me, who do I think we should draft? So I was like, we need to draft Vince.
His new coach, Butch Carter, quickly replaced Dean Smith as Vince's advisor and father figure.
Butch said, hey, I'm gonna give you the ball. I'm gonna let you show the world. That's something I never told anybody, but he said, I'm gonna let you show the world what you can really do.
If he wasn't doing what he was supposed to, I basically got in his face about it. You know, he had to learn to step up.
Maybe he said all the stuff, maybe he didn't.
I was like, damn, what did I say? I didn't understand.
Beyond the Glory on Fox Sports Net is presented by Acura.
In 1999, Vince Carter arrived in Toronto thickly wrapped in potential. By the end of his first season, he had earned NBA Rookie of the Year honors and become an adopted son of the city.
This is a hot ticket in Toronto today.
People respond to him and his great smile and the work he does in the community. He's by far the most popular athlete in Canada right now.
The sound crowd on its feet. The dunk machine strikes again. Carter, a whirling dervish going to the hoop.
Midway through his second rapturous season, Vince's appeal had spread to the States.
To Carter, Vince Carter down to the chains. Oh, slam dunk! One of the greats of the year.
He was the leading vote getter for the 2000 All-Star Game, but it was the weekend's dunk contest that had him excited.
As a kid, I watched the dunk contest, I studied it, I taped them. You know, I went in there focused like it was a game.
Vince decided to give the fans a show that would wear down the rewind buttons on their remote controls.
Right here is Vince Carter with his first shot. Let's go home! Let's go home! This building just exploded. It is over! Did I call it, Daddy, or what?
For his third effort, Vince enlisted the help of his cousin and teammate, Tracy McGrady.
I want you to stand right here. I want you to bounce the ball. I'm like, what is this man about to do?
I think dunking is an art, so I try to show people this is what I can do and this is the way I do it.
By his fourth dunk, the anticipation had risen as high as the soles of Vince's shoes.
And I sat there, I'm thinking. And as they call my name out, I still don't know what I'm gonna do. But I want to think a little different. I want to put some pizzazz and make it just like, I want to blow people's mind.
All right, Vince Carter with his first on the final round.
It was dead silent in the arena. People just don't know what the world did this boy just do.
You ever see that? I've never seen that before. Let's just sign the check over. Let's go home, call it a night. Let's see who's going for second place.
They're showing the replay again, and they get to see it a second time. And all of a sudden, people going bananas and just going crazy, man. And I smile because I got what I want.
America now understood the infatuation of its northern neighbors. Vince Carter had crossed the border and entered into superstardom.
Each dunk changed my life. And I was a new man. It was a whole new world for me.
Carter rode the momentum of All-Star Weekend into the second half of the season, teaming with a quickly improving McGrady to lead the Raptors on a frantic playoff push.
This Vince Carter, he got his little cousin Tracy McGrady behind him, and we just felt like nobody can stop us.
McGrady. Oh, yeah. Carter. Swinging pass by McGrady. Carter, the reverberating rim rocker.
The Vince and T-Mac show featured two rising stars growing increasingly comfortable on the court and increasingly close off of it.
We was together every day. I go down to his condo, he come up to my condo, we hang, we play video games. We just had a great friendship.
On the court, they were always pushing each other in practice and things like that. They had a lot of respect for each other.
The Raptors clawed their way to the franchise's first ever playoff berth. But their prize was a first-round matchup with the battle-tested New York Knicks.
Playoffs is a different story. It's a different season. The veterans, they stepped up on their team. I know they weren't gonna let two young guys knock them out of the first round.
Vince had to learn to step up. You know, we lost, I think, 3 games by 7 points, and I think Vince shot less than 30%. I mean, he really stunk, you know?
Carter couldn't score.
With defeat came criticism, and Vince was the primary target.
It didn't bother me. People gonna say what they're gonna say. They're gonna try to bring you down. I was happy, but I wasn't satisfied. 2 days later after we lost, I'm in the gym again, preparing for next year.
But before the next season, Vince would learn some hard lessons about life in the limelight. Persistent rumors about the illegal activities of his trusted agent, Tank Black, were becoming louder.
I thought it was one more instance of a black man being successful and someone's trying to tear him down. Because this was my friend, I didn't want to believe it.
That's why I had no hesitation to go out there and tell him I'm behind Tank 100%. He needs my help. I'm there for him. He has my support.
At 6:30 tonight, Tank Black was still in court, unsure if he would leave a free man.
When the facts emerged, Vince and Michelle discovered that Tank had illegally invested and lost more than $200,000 of Vince's money.
Happy to be moving on.
One of the tougher pills to swallow in my life. Why would you do that to me when we've been good and we've been honest with each other from day one? And then when a good friend betrays you, it's always tough.
I'm angry now because you took this child's money and you knew that this thing you were doing wasn't right. I'll never forgive him for that.
Over the years, Vince Carter's ascent had been mirrored by his brother's decline. By the summer of 2000, Chris Carter had been arrested 5 times for offenses ranging from driving with a suspended license to possession of cocaine.
It didn't sink in until I got behind those bars, and I was like, man, sat in there for about 30 days, a month, the longest month of my life.
Chris, after a while, was looking for his own identity because he's trying to be who he wants to be. He just chose to go about it the wrong way sometimes.
You had an older brother who always seemed to do the right thing at the right time, say the right thing, be in the right place. And Chris didn't understand is you don't have to compete with that. He can't get past his brother's success.
Chris dropped out of high school in 1998 and moved to Soul City, the dreary slum of Daytona Beach.
I thought it was embarrassing because Harry and I are well-respected educators. I think that God is the only one who can take Chris out of this for good.
You were just defenseless because there's nothing you can do until they want to help themselves.
If he wants help, he'll be the first person to help. It's just that it's kind of hard to do that when, you know, you're not doing right.
I didn't feel any worries out there, really. But, you know, I know I couldn't be there and at Mom's house. One of them had to go. And I chose my mom's house.
Despite Chris's efforts to stay clean, he has spent a considerable amount of time behind bars, a place where his brother hasn't had the strength to visit him.
I'd rather just talk to him on the phone, just treat it as he's in another state or something. You know, and maybe that's a bad thing, but I can't. I just can't do that. Not yet.
In the summer of 2000, as Vince Carter headed to Australia to represent the U.S. in the Olympics, he carried with him the weight of the world, and it was the world that would feel his wrath.
I was the one in danger at that point in time.
I don't want to hear all that talking about, you know, he shouldn't have went and got his degree. That's bull.
I was surprised at the attitudes of some people.
In the spring of 2000, Vince Carter and the Toronto Raptors were easily eliminated from the playoffs by the New York Knicks. Vince's disappointment was amplified by the firing of his coach and mentor, Butch Carter.
I did not want out of Toronto, all right? I wanted out of a bad situation.
I was lucky enough that I was able to have a group of men accept my vision when everyone else said it, you know, it couldn't happen. And, you know, the fact that Vince is still here, you know, it's his vision.
He saw something in me that I didn't see or other people didn't see at all. He said, you're a player in this league.
This feels great. I get the opportunity to come back home, play in front of my family, my friends, and just play for a first-class organization.
Vince's difficult summer was capped in August when his cousin and best friend in Toronto, Tracy McGrady, left the Raptors, signing a free agent contract with the Orlando Magic.
Vince was disappointed because he saw a bright future for the both of us. I didn't see it that way. I wanted him to have his own spotlight in Toronto, let me go somewhere and have my own spotlight.
We were starting to build something that was spectacular. If he didn't feel that was enough to stay, no problem.
Vince's frustration was fueled by media reports that McGrady resented Vince's popularity.
Whoever it was just shooting this negative stuff in his ear about what I said about him, about the team.
Maybe he said all the stuff, maybe he didn't.
In August, Vince escaped to Australia as a member of the U.S. Olympic basketball team.
Vince, before the Olympics, had no hair, but he had a lot of problems.
Fighting to come to terms with his brother's incarceration, coping with the betrayal of his trusted agent, and facing an upcoming NBA season without his mentor or his best friend, Vince Carter saw the 2000 Olympics as his opportunity to play with a new uniform, a new haircut, and a new attitude.
Carter! He subconsciously maybe thought, if I could just not be Vince Carter for a minute, maybe I can just work some of these things out and everything would be just fine.
Carter's got to back up and walk away.
He was going through a lot of emotional stuff at the time. There was a lot of pressure on him, and he needed to play a little man. You know, I had talked to him and told him, you know, look, you know, I know I'm not your coach, but, you know, go get my gold medal.
Carter played with a fierceness he had never before exhibited, climaxing his global assault with a mind-blowing power dunk over 7'2" Frenchman Frederick Weiss.
Hands down, I had never seen anything like that. I mean,
He jumped over his head.
I didn't know that I jumped over this guy. I thought I hit him. He either moved out of the way or he fell down trying to get the charge. Still today, when I see it, still can't believe me. I just jumped over a 7'2" dude.
In the fall, Air Canada made the return flight to Toronto, and the fans were thrilled to have their Olympic hero back home. But for Vince, there remained an emptiness. He and Tracy McGrady, who was quickly building his own kingdom down in Orlando, had still not resolved their feud. In December, the cousins had their first conversation in 6 months.
3-on-2, Jackson lines it, Carter hammers it. McGrady inside. Tracy McGrady. Boy, what a duel between McGrady and Carter.
By the time the Raptors visited Orlando in January, the friendship had been renewed.
There was no need for us to act like that. We was too damn close.
He's a superstar now, you know, which I'm happy for him. And he made a good decision, and a decision that was for him.
Turn it up.
For the second year in a row, Vince was the leading vote getter for the All-Star game, and this time he was joined by his former teammate.
Rejected by McGrady.
In the first round of the playoffs, the Raptors again faced the veteran New York Knicks. But this time, Vince was up to the challenge.
And the game is over. The Toronto Raptors move along and will face the Philadelphia 76ers.
Vince would have little time to celebrate, as he now found himself mano-a-mano with the league's leading scorer, Allen Iverson.
Iverson streaking by everybody, and Allen Iverson. Oh, wow! Wild helter-skelter game. Here is Carter. What a start for him.
For 6 games, Carter and Iverson traded offensive explosions, inspiring each other to dizzying heights.
Another one. That's amazing. Amazing. Vince Carter, 50. His NBA high.
The series went to a deciding 7th game, and suddenly Vince faced a dilemma. As a high school senior, he had promised his mother that he would graduate from college. Despite leaving North Carolina after his junior year, he had been attending summer school in an effort to keep that promise. Now, graduation day fell on the morning of the biggest game of his life.
A part of the educational process is the celebration that comes after you have accomplished your goals. Why would you want any student to miss that for any reason? Why?
Beyond the Glory on Fox Sports Net is presented by Acura.
On May 20th, 2000, Vince Carter appeared to have a dilemma. Graduation day at the University of North Carolina was scheduled for the same day as Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinals. But where others saw a conflict, Vince saw a simple solution.
I made it clear to both sides. I said, I'm going to go get my degree. I said, but I'm going to go play in that game.
Vince spent the morning of May 20th in a Carolina blue cap and gown, celebrating an achievement 5 years in the making.
Best feeling in the world. You can't take it from me, you know? I can go on with life and say, okay, you can take basketball from me. You can say I can't play ever again.
I was just so proud because he didn't let the pressure from outside people and the media cause him to change his mind.
Immediately after graduation, Vince boarded a private plane back to Philadelphia and prepared himself for a final showdown with Iverson and the Sixers.
If things don't go well, he has really opened himself up.
He knows that he must perform today.
It was clear that he wanted to separate these two events.
It was inside. Carter goes right and puts up. Iverson a long three. Carter splits the defenders, gets inside, and he's hammered. Carter hammered, but he'll shoot too. Talking about putting your body in harm's way.
With 2 seconds left, the Raptors had possession of the ball, trailing by only 1 point. Vince insisted on taking the final shot.
I was sitting there like shaking. I said, Coach, I'm gonna get open. I'm gonna get us a shot. I'm gonna win the game.
Carter trying to get free. Carter at the buzzer. No good. And the Sixers hold on and advance to the conference finals.
I'm happy. I'd do it again. And at some point in time, I plan on going to get my master's. And who knows, in 3-4 years, might be game 5.
His effort and dedication made a decided impact on his younger brother, Chris, who is now working towards his high school diploma and is determined to stay drug-free and out of jail.
It's not an unachievable goal. It could be done, and I'm going to do that. Make him proud as well, and my mother, my family.
He just needs time to sit there by himself until one day, the real Chris comes to that evil side of Chris and says, hey, you know, you're no longer.
Vince, meanwhile, has dropped anchor in Toronto, signing a 6-year, $94 million contract, ensuring that Raptor fans will be subjected to steady doses of Vinsanity for a long time to come.
I still have a goal, and I'm still hungry. And I think I still have a long way to go.